Network. I am Shango Wumio. Welcome, welcome, welcome all. This is Ringing Stone Network. I am Shango Wumio Labinta, Baba Usuko on the dial tone. Here's our host, Miss Sangoma.
Good evening to all. Good evening, Baba. How are you this evening? Okay, he likes to be the silent friend. And so, that poem, we're just so glad. When we held the container in sacred space in the temple for chants and mantras and poems and spoken word, and Baba really surprised us. He outdid himself with that one and sprung it on us, and I wrote it down, and she said it. What caught me was the me I am in this space. To me, I am in the becoming of in my tomorrow. That was just so profound, so very, very, very profound to us, and seemed to fit quite well in the dark moon energy of this Scorpion moon, where that's exactly what we came to speak about this evening with our dear, dear brother, the Hood Mystic from Ohio, all the way up there in the Midwest, and just really visit what it means to, we all have dreams and visions, or most of us do, and, from time to time, and maybe more of us do it with a conscious intention, and that's a little bit about what we want to speak about, how we really formulate having a vision. Some of us are blessed to just vision drop in, download from our ancestors, from other energies, other places in our galactic selves, our universal selves. And then, others of us, as we move toward a new job or a new house or getting married or, building our lives, we vision for that. And for many of us, where we drop the ball is how to really structure that vision and hold the energy of that vision so that we can carry it forward toward the manifestation, which is the energy of our celestial beings as the moon waxes to full. And so the last dark moon back in October was in Libra. And we headed on in there as we're doing this evening. And the conversations evolve as they do. And any of you that would like to get into Ringing Stone, look it up there in the archives. I know the Hood Mystic also has it on his channel. It evolved into an amazing discussion as far as the relationship between holding the energy spiritually and or holding the energy sexually, whether you do those things separate or together. I'm sure we'll get a little bit into that. And so Baba said, well, why don't we kind of do part two? Because we found ourselves there probably half past the hour of 10 on that last show. And we had a few people that wanted to come in to speak to it, so we thought we'd open there again this evening. I believe my friend Hood Mystic is available to us at 248. Shango Wumi was just blessed to give me that. I believe she's opening your mic, and we want to say a good evening to you, and be welcome. Be welcome in this space.
Much gratitude and appreciation for being here. I'm expecting to have can y'all hear me? We on?
We can now. You were a little shaky at
cool.
first, but now I hear you really well.
All right, cool. So first thing that I want to say is deep gratitude and appreciation for allowing me to share this space with you guys once again. The more that we share space with one another, the more comfortable, the more we get to learn one another and grow with one another. So, I'm only in a space of gratitude. Been really preparing for this day. So I have a lot to talk about, a lot to say. not in an over talking type of way, but just, in an availability type of way. If there are any questions, I've been really speaking up this moment. So I just anticipate a lot of enlightenment and a lot of connection and a lot of understanding and overstanding and, all things spiritual. But Sister Sangoma, how are you today? This evening, rather. How are you?
I'm really well, and that's saying a lot. We've had evolutions in this time after the thinning of the veils and evolving, waning to this new moon in Scorpio, and we're just really in the depths of that. Can't wait to really chew on some of the insights that I know that you brought us. And we have to say both Shango Wumi and I are just right on that daily energy message every morning. So we've been evolving with you. And we're in the process of moving. Today we moved my Iku shrine, my ancestor shrine, which has always been on my gazebo, to make room for Shango Wumi Production Studio. And so how exciting. And the back porch is becoming Mama Loja's trading post. So that's kind of how I'm doing. So there's like big evolutions moving in my house. It's Odu that comes with Oya that says evolution.
Can I ask a question in relation to those transformations? When these things are taking place, the energy that I've been feeling is that the energy is responding to me at a mental level that is like blowing my mind. Like I'm thinking about things.
Absolutely.
And
major download.
They're like, and it's happening that way. And I'm like, okay. Let me realign my thoughts and let me be as honest as I possibly can be today, and really speak to everything for which, and then the connection, and then the conversation, and then the camaraderie is one of those things that are undeniable. And I was just wondering are you sharing that experience with me?
Absolutely, and on all levels and all dimensions and spaces. To say, and I wanted to put that out there, and it's interesting because the evolution of you and I's ropes of relationship and friendship that we're building, there are whole sections of that reality that, your market, the people that follow you there on your YouTube channel, nor my tribes that I go to, they look at us and that's, Baba, he always does such a great job with the flyer, and he really absolutely got it, and that's why I had to say, I'm sure your folks say, what Hood doing talking to that old lady?
Let's do this thing. Let's do this thing, like really pique their interest, what are we doing here?
Exactly.
And it's so spiritual that you just can only invite people into the exchange and feel the energy as we begin to expound and express everything that Spirit has to say today. Like you, whoever chooses to listen today, whether it's on the down low or the live, it's major business taking place at this point in time.
It makes me feel sad for the people who kind of just jumping in the middle, you know what I mean? Because I did want to set a tone, and just put some of the pieces out there so that because what happens, and I just said that, and shout out to Baba Ojo Olamina, priest of Yamaja, who's riding one of them big trucks on the road. He said he couldn't call in, of course, but he was going to listen in. And I just said that to him. I said, this is a powerful astrologer and reader who is used, and I put capital letters, used by his ancestors to deliver a message to the young people in the hood. And so I want to just say right here at the top of the show that you and I have never met face to face. You and I just kind of came into this intersection of spirit and whatever our covenants and agreements were between our ancestors to rock out from right here. And if anybody has, for those who have tuned into you way before I knew you or came into the knowing of you, they know that once you move in, like a lot of science is going to drop right there, and maybe people want to have pencil and paper tonight before you can get into all the aspects and how we doing and the different parts. I know I have a few questions. I was married 9 years to a Scorpion, and you'd think I would know better, but you know, I still think I have a lot to learn about this particular sign. As I'm just saying, as opposed to other signs, you know, our friends.
Right.
Yeah. So I'm looking forward to some of what you think.
This is a special understanding, though. Like this is beyond. You know, this is what I would call fundamental to understanding all spiritual aspect, you know, transformation, death, rebirth, you know. This is where it starts. So, you know, married 9 years to a Scorpio, the astrologer in me, you know, the hairs on my back raise a little bit because that is the number of Scorpio, you know.
That's right. That's right.
You know, deals with Scorpio.
And I am a Pisces. Let's just stir that pot a little bit more.
And let's just stir the pot a little. Let's get a bigger pot, you know.
Okay. Exactly.
One of those big mama pots and get, like, you're really making some gumbo right now. So, you know, it's an acquired taste, but, you know, you have to really dive deep into the experience of Scorpio, where the sting of Scorpio is just the first part, you know, and then from there it's the eagle, and then from there it's the phoenix. So we're all at particular levels of scorpionic energy as spiritual people. We come into this thing hurt from the Christian church or the mosque or high school or our job or our relationship with our parents. We come into this thing hurt, stung, or that marriage, whoa, you know, doozies, you know, very hurt, wounded, you know, stung by Scorpio and that stinger, you know. But from that place, you know, this is where we're able to heal, and we understand the concept of healing, because you cannot heal something that is perfect. Like, it's just impossible. Like, why do you come to the doctor? Your yearly checkup? You're fine. Like, there is no healing in that. Right. So the deeper our wounds, the greater our healing. So for everybody on the live, everybody on the download, that's the reality that we're all here today to deal with and to address, you know. Absolutely. Because we are in a perfect place for healing and realization. So, you know, does that kind of answer the question, or I just want to have
absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. You know, and my homework, which, you know, our projects today in the house didn't really let me sit with it the way I wanted to. But, of course, I looked up a lot of the different servings on YouTube regarding the new moon in Scorpio, just to give a listen. And one thing that really caught my attention, and that's what I was going to say, I'm just going to put, like, you know, light a few candles around the temple, around you speaking, because I know you're going to drop on all of this. But for our listeners, I want to anchor it in a place where they can really relate. They can find their listening bowl for it. And one of the things that she said was to check out that you're going to talk about it. There's something, maybe it's one of the nodes that's really in Cancer. And so she was equating, you see, because as you said what you said just now, I was like, I wasn't really attracted to the thing, but, you know, anybody that knows astrology knows that there's almost like a fatal attraction kind of thing between Pisces and Scorpio. And part of the attraction, I have to say, for me, is the flow of water. I understand my beingness enough to really see how water flows from me, and also pulls that, you know, that ebb and flow between myself and how I come into relationship with others. And that is particularly true with the Scorpions. But what she said was to notice that scorpions, are at the edge of water. They do water and the land, but they don't, as far as we know, live deep, like a low-coon deep. And she said, and this is true about crabs. If you go to the beach, you can see crabs scurrying up on the edges of the water. She said, but if you want to go deep into the deep waters, then you venture out into Pisces. And so it was just a real good opportunity for me to look at it, because I know as you run these different planets and then the energy of them and their relationships to one another, understanding ourselves better as the water sign or a fire sign or air sign or earth sign, and how we relate. We just depend on words too much within our communications and our relationships with others. And what I hope you'll go to, and I think we will pull out of this show, is the energies that we feel, and because that's our first mind, that's our gut intuition, telling us, move towards this energy. This is a soul relationship, or no, not your soul group. Back up, take another route, leave that where you found it, and we would all do well in the times we're living in to follow that intuition. So that was one of the things that I just kind of wanted to ask your higher soul, your spirit, to be conscious of as you bringing us this information this evening, is the elemental factors that hold everything true that you're going to share with us, astrologically and spiritually, and to just really we're trying to hit that middle place where people on the third dimension, way down here on the ground, say, oh, this has got to be interesting. But interesting why? Where does it hit each of us? Yeah, right there.
Sure.
So break it down for us, brother. Where we at?
So when you think about Scorpio, you think about the element, right? You have Cancer and you have Pisces. Pisces being at the edge of spring, and Cancer being well into winter. Well in the summer, if you're living in where are we from, America. Generally, when you think of Scorpio, there is only one level of water that hasn't been touched, and that is the level of crystallization, or the level of ice, which is necessary, being that it is preparing you for Sagittarius, where you're kind of being put under a particular scourge or a particular fire. But the idea with water being froze is, have you ever seen Demolition Man?
No, I heard of it.
No. Well, the idea is when you freeze something, or the mammals that were frozen during the Ice Age, they said they still have food digested in their stomach. It's like when you freeze something, that idea, or wherever you're at, this is something that you want to be very, very, very mindful of, right? Because it's going to be frozen. So a lot of times we want to have the proper idea. A new moon in Scorpio with the water sign is like your emotions being on froze, but that makes it powerful, because you're able to program a particular idea or a particular thing that you want to accomplish. A lot of my transformation came in this particular time, where I wanted to, spread my brand of YouTube videos or whatever, and doing the new moon in Scorpio last year, and it's very powerful. I don't, if anybody ever wanted to look at a video that I did a year ago to a video that I'm doing now, very powerful when you actually freeze your mind to a particular idea.
I would. I'm that type of person, because that's a clear, it's a clear ability to watch spirit move in the transformation of what's grown and what seed you planted last year and where it is now.
So from the elemental space, it's water, but a different vibration of water that we all know all too well, ice, being like there's a thing, there's an element that we can all use. We can all relate to this as human beings on the planet. The concept of ice, and then what are you actually freezing? To prepare for you to move forward into Sagittarius, as a lot of planets are transiting. Jupiter is transiting into Sagittarius, which is a fire sign, which we talked about in full detail today on the daily energy reading. I was very much spiritually moved to explain the intricacies of Sagittarius. But also what we're going to talk about tomorrow is this transiting North Node into Cancer. And, the North Node into Cancer is your spiritual quest, and Cancer represents your spiritual family, your emotional ties. Like, Cancer is a powerful part of our lives because it is, where a lot of people might overlook this aspect of emotions, but the emotions that you have in your household, the love that you have for your children, the love that you have for your spouse, that, your mother, like your family bond and connection, that matters, And so, as, how are we going to align that quest and really do what's best for the family and incorporating this spiritual knowledge? As North Node was in Leo, the fire sign really is energy, and how we really build energy is through knowledge. So we really have been taking the time when the North Node transited into Leo. There was a solar eclipse, actually, that kind of kick-started that thing off. And we really took the time on my channel, like week after week, day after day, just learning, right? Just talking about particular spiritual information, energy, and things of that nature. Now we are transiting into that connection where we're having these conversations, we're doing these radio shows. And of course, we were on the cusp of it when it was still in Leo, but we're moving forward into that connection, So does that resonate? Does that make sense?
Yeah, well, absolutely, absolutely. It was, again, in this one of these audios that we listened to, she was speaking directly to that transition and how from Leo, which is, of course, Mufasa, and just full out, Leos are full out, and of course that's the energy we've been in, and thank God the midterm elections are over because people were full out, just full out. And she was saying, this transition into Cancer, into that maternal energy, the sign of the mother for us, the Yamaja, the moon, this energy of the moon, and particularly again in the larger part of this conversation of how we're raising this energy. You hit so many points, this energy from the new moon to the full moon and what's growing. And part of what you're speaking right now is that, even though we're going deeper into these connections at the family level, and we're inside that crab shell, was her point. Is that, I tell people, there's two main things to know about cancers, and one is that, A, they don't walk forward. Crabs walk to the side, okay? And so that tells you a lot about those people born under that sun sign, that they're not going to come straight at you, and you should never really come straight at them too forcefully like that. You got to kind of bring it around from the side, because that's the nature of a Cancer. Yeah, that's the nature of it.
Yeah,
and we might think, I have a Cancer rising, Yeah, and so that's why sometimes when I'm real quiet, it kind of worries people, because it's like, yeah, you all right? And I always just tell myself, I do have a Cancer rising, and from time to time I'm in my crab shell, and I'm nice and quiet in here. So
but
so I wanted to ask
in the water, still connected at all times. You can't separate the crab from the water. It's still one and the same.
How long I don't really know the energy of the node, like I know, and we'll get to it, I'm sure, Mercury was going retrograde. I don't know it like retrograde. So how long do, about a lunation that it stays in Cancer, the node?
About 18 months, give or take. You say about 14, 16 months, give or take, something like over a year. So it's a long period of time. The last time we transited, it was the summer of 2017. So, now we're in the winter of 2018 dealing with a particular transit. And, all of this energy is coinciding with a particular shift of understanding. And so we have a lot to talk to when it's coming to that understanding of that shift, how to utilize that shift in this moment, whether you're a man, woman, single, relationship, rich, poor. We want to touch the whole spectrum of all listeners on how we all can transform using this new moon and Scorpio energy and practical information once we get off this line, and just really understand the energy, your body, how to use it. It's a very powerful tool, and there's a lot of things that I've been doing to kind of promote this energy. So I'm just happy to be here, honestly, so.
Yeah, and we're happy to dig in and just build it as it goes, weave the web as it goes. That's of course, what I'm thinking about. I'm trying to stay again in that middle space between as above, so below. And of course, when you say 18 months out, 14 to 18 months out, I'm like, wow, it's going to take us right up into 2020. And of course, I mean, the least of which you say that and people immediately go, right, then we have to go back all through all these ads and all this stuff about the presidential election. But what heals, and I've been in this feeling as we have moved through this extreme turbulence of the last lunation, that coming to this conversation of, yes, Scorpio is a water sign, and we're Sagittarius, and how exactly in our everyday lives do we anchor the energy to heal, the energy to build bridges, the energy of peace? Because this dance we're doing and all this anger and maybe, you're right, maybe, it's just still the Leo hitting the ground as we move into the Cancer, and that's not the only thing up. I mean, we hadn't even got into Venus going back direct the 16th of this month, and like we're going retrograde, Mercury going retrograde, and getting your legal affairs done, taking care of communications, what to do before those things happen, so we don't get so tripped up and distracted. Because as much as your listeners listen to you and people are in touch with me, you know what I'm saying? What they call about is how they got distracted, how they just got daggone derailed because they didn't see it coming. And I think that's part of why you and I are both, is so that we can answer directly questions as to how to keep your eye on the ball, how, all those things you said, how to take care of your body, how your energy is doing, when to rest, when to move out. So, yeah, I'm ready to hear it, particularly that I guess there's a couple of things on my mind. I'm going to put them right out there. The 11/11 gateway that's coming up, and then
for sure 11/11/11.
Yeah, 11/11/11, exactly.
Yeah.
Speak to that a little bit so people understand why we're on that, if you would.
Sure. My pleasure. There's a multitude of layers to get to, cracking open this code. And I really want to do it in a sense where we can all be on the same accord, be all on the same page. We've made mistakes.
So it is. We all.
So it is. We're all here, So the reality is we made mistakes in the past, or we have particular things in our past that block us. And from that past, distraction creates a negative ideal of what we want. So what we want generally is on a shallow level. And when you deal with certain energies, you might get what you want. And you have to maintain it or manage it because that's duality. I was talking to a friend earlier, sure, you can get the nice car. I learned this very early, but then you got to pay the car payment and the insurance every month.
Yeah, that's what happened.
You know what I'm saying? And so this is human ambition. This is what we want and what we get. And so this is how we are ultimately distracted. The way to hack through this, the way to crack this code is to want what the spirit wants. And from this perspective, there's no argument, there is no distraction. We can really in tune to what we want and really put that and really freeze that energy, really wanting what the spirit wants for us and particular ideas, as opposed to like finite details of wanting just like specific things, because ultimately we don't know what's on the other side of that specific thing. A lot of where we are today, being in this place and time is a level of fortune and a level of, favor. But if we don't see that within ourselves, if we don't establish clarity within ourselves, then, it could be a whole slew of things that make us feel negatively or have particular distractions. So it's very important to drink water,
Yeah.
So many of our people don't do it, so many of our people do it, but it should be one of the foremost things of realizing, especially now, drink water. So much going on with the water. Michigan, throughout the country, though, they're poisoning us, and we're not really replacing it or really speaking to, how we could combat this by just drinking water and really flushing out our system. And then another level to this transformation is the orgasm. Whether you're a woman and tapping into your multi-orgasmic realms, or if you're a man, which 9.9 out of 10, you've never experienced the orgasm. You only experience ejaculation, which is not an orgasm. So to build up your energy to experience the realm of transformation, the realm of power, is found in the orgasm. Essentially, you have your masculine and your feminine energy converging in Scorpio. And if we're going to be ancient in our way of thinking, this is, the beginning of the orgasm in the middle of Scorpio, and really finding that point. Now, you can establish this within your relationship. Maybe you're not in a relationship. You can establish this within your being. There is no excuse having an orgasm and using that energy to build up your spiritual transformation and your spiritual power and really will things into your existence. I'm speaking from a place of experience and living in that, variety of reasons have me in a space where I haven't experienced release since the summer. So I'm in a space where I'm speaking to people and I'm communicating from my spiritual energy and my spiritual power, and it's a beautiful feeling. And those urges in that beginning phase is just a test. It's just an illusion. But beyond that is, completion and wholeness. To be able to hold a space with a goddess and respect that space, and not violate that space because I can't control my urges, that's disheartening to me. in my experience. So many times as a man, I've dropped the ball in my relationships with women because I couldn't control my sexual urges, So developing and building and cultivating my sexual energy is allowing me to be present in my relationship in this moment with you, so very powerful.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, most people who know me really well know that I'm a mermaid, and I have many other lives in Atlantis and under the water. And, I was thinking about that as we purified in the tub. We just went into the womb and jacuzzi, candlelight dark. I love to just sink down because it's a way to actually relax all of my cells into that body of hot water again. And I was thinking in that moment about how very connected and interwoven my sexual energy is to my spiritual energy, and particularly in a body of water. And how the power of water, as you were speaking to it, I was like, yep, water is life. Drink more water. and for me, again, having been fully paralyzed, which is another whole story you don't know anything about that we came back from, where, a shaman did tell me that. He told me two things. He said, number one, you got to start drinking from the cup of water that you keep passing out to other people. You're like the little lady at the well. People just come up to you and you give them a cup of water and give them a cup of water, but you never drink any of the water for yourself. And he said, you will find, and he was speaking to me when a nurse was holding the phone to my ear because there was nothing in my body moving whatsoever.
Wow.
And he said, you will find that water is the life that will restore your mobility. And he went on to say, he just said, water is a healer. And of course, months later, by the time, we were getting to that part of aqua therapy from the wheelchair, and they just wheeled us up to the ramp of the pool, and down we went, and we could walk again. Because of course you can walk, underwater, even though, when you come up out of that water, you got to get back in the wheelchair for a bit. And so I think, people really underestimate the power of water. I think that's kind of where I want to put it in terms of where you're going next in your conversation. But I do want to put a little post-it up on the side because...
all levels, they underestimate the power of water, like in any realm of thought.
Absolutely. I was saying I want to just put a pin in that piece that you really identified in terms of, because, I've always, when women say, well, I'm a little grumpy, I'm kind of horny, and we do recognize, as the older we get, the urges of men, and whether that looks like someone stepping out on us in a relationship, or however it looks, that the urges that you were speaking of just kind of interrupt. They come in a place of that divine union between significant others or partners, male, female, that it interrupts it. It does. And because part we miss, and maybe we'll hit it again as we get deeper, is where the union of the souls happen, and where that energy builds to an explosion or an expression of something bigger than the two people participating. That's nothing, that's there.
Oh my God.
And how we either hold that energy or we don't. And since most of us experience that, it's a really good way to talk about, here's the vision you have in the dark moon. And just like you hold or you stimulate or whatever lovemaking is for you to move with the energy of your sexual self in order to harness that energy. That's the energy we're speaking about, that people are a little less familiar with in their souls. You know what I mean? They got it down on the physical body level, the sensations that go through our physical vessel. However, and again I say this, and I don't know if we hit it in the sex magic conversation, but I wanted to, because after I got off of it, I was speaking to somebody about that whole conversation. I said, it so reminded me of the movie Cocoon. When the female being, did you see that movie, Cocoon?
Yeah, I did.
Oh, yeah.
With the alien,
where she descended all the way across the pool to the dude. Yeah. Next thing he knew, he was fully in it. You see what I'm saying? Fact. Without even touching her body. And so, you know, maybe Jonathan Santos will come on here. You know, he talked to us much about the tantric and that same type of thing where, and I think you spoke to it. That's kind of where the conversation landed last time was, you know, Baba asked you for that ritual that two people do between themselves and how they really have, you know, just turn the volume up on their consciousness. With each other's being, the energy between them before that first touch at all happens, even holding hands, just to be able to feel the energy of our auric fields or our makabas, the outer body that we don't see, so sometimes we neglect it and we forget when we come into the space of another, you know what I mean? And hey, boy, that's a bigger conversation with, you know, all these people who violate other people's spaces. We don't take that sacred space, at the level that we should. So don't let me ramble on, but those were the points that I got out of there.
And I just want to say, like, I was thinking about this earlier. I'm coming from a space of longing and a space of not having. Okay? First and foremost, my wife was something that I did not have or did not know or was unaware of prior to me meeting her and growing and developing and being with the child with her and her being the spiritual force in my life. But prior to that was a ritual, you know, but prior to that was a realization of what I needed and a refusal to and then a deep knowing. And then when we were together or when we first met, it was never anything herky-jerky or like maybe not. It was so much of a deep knowing. And so this is the power of doing Tantra alone and being a man, you know. Having somebody that, you know, reaches you on a spiritual level, because it means something when somebody connects with you spiritually, especially me as in my line of work and the people that I deal with, where you could be fully aligned and fully in tune spiritually, but you got this relationship that, you know, you sleep with and wake up with and plan with that is not fully aligned to your spiritual pathway. And you're creating all types of karma when you could be in a relationship where you're spiritually in union and create dharma. And I just want to say to the people who are single that may have negative body images or, you know, run the whole gamut of just think of something negative that you could think about yourself. I'm pretty sure that I was afflicted with it. You know, I've very, very much of a tortured soul for much of my life, you know. And so the space that I'm speaking from and the peace that I'm speaking from is through transformation and really utilizing this Scorpio energy. And I've never been with a Scorpio or even vibe with a Scorpio until I met my wife. And being the symbol that me and her see when we reach levels, like when we make love or when we travel, we see eagles, you know. That's our, like, we see those in strange places, you know. And it's just like one of those things that, you know, really speak to our love and really speak to our vision and really speak to what you said earlier, that energy beyond our carnal lust or whatever we think we do it on the human level. Like, it means so much more, man, so powerful that my mom and dad, you know, I don't even personally know my dad, but they are in a relationship, you know, as we speak, you know, just sent me a picture and they were in church, you know, together, you know. That's their thing. To me, it meant, you know what I'm saying? Like, that's their thing. I'm not like, you know what I'm saying? It was like, okay, that's beautiful. You know, that we can really mend those type of chains, you know, and all for the sake of love and union, you know. Transformation and all things are possible when you tap into this energy. That's why we're talking about it. We're not talking about it. This is outside of the realm of pornography or the realm of, you know, carnal lust or objectifying people sexually. This is in the realm of sexual energy, that vibration that you feel when you build up your sexual energy and being in that space for a moment in time that you can remember it. So for women, it is not, you know, the sensation of an orgasm. It is the space of the multi-orgasmic point in time where it is some minutes or, you know, hours or however long. And so, men, it's important that you deal with the energy to create that sensation for your woman so she can be in that space of multi-orgasmic space, and you're not, you know, into it for your own little cheap thrill, you know.
Right. Where's the intersection that beings make love, that souls make love? And I think the confusion lies is that what I'm thinking I should do, and then what my genitals feel, and what I'm thinking I should do, and what my genitals feel. Right. You know,
and so my last point is that to this place with each other, with ourselves, is patience. I just wanted to say that, you know. If we're going to get anywhere in our relationships, if we're going to get anywhere sexually, we're going to need patience. So you wanted to say that. It's very important.
Yeah. Well, I think it's a good point. And again, just, you know, kind of holding the container with the elementals. This is one point right here in terms of so many things. You could take water and, you know, you put that cold water in the pot and then you put the heat under it and it comes to a boil. Or or you jump in because, as you spoke before of the urges, your fires are up. And so you want to add more wood to the fire so that you can build up the energy of the fire. But are you grounded in it? And where are you breathing through it so that there's a balance and all those elements as we are moving in any energy? And what really grabs me as we are at this point in the conversation is, again, you know, identifying some of the Scorpion energy. So many times when people speak of the Scorpion personality, the word passion comes up, or the word intense comes up. And this is right where we are in this conversation is really about dissecting what our passions are and how that works from something, a longing in our heart that moves through the rest of our being, mind, genitals, all that polluted. But the fact is that your heart, your soul is craving for something. And as you were speaking there with the tenderness and the full tilt boogie that women require to really be in the height of their intimacy, whether or not that intimacy is sexual, physical, spiritual, emotional, mental. Where is the intimacy for each body, not just your physical body? And so, that's definitely up and to be considered in here. So, we're just dancing all around Oshun and Venus in these final stages of retrograde, and that speaks to it as well. I know in many cultural circles where, Oshun is just played as the sacred whore, or, the gal with the mirror, and, all of that. That once you really have a stronger cultural foundation to understand her as the mother of culture and the mother of fine things, again, we hit that Cancer maternal energy that we're also going into at this point. And we say, so how, because the 16th, where are we at the 7th? So, we basically have about 9 days, nice number, again, for the completion to meet that energy of where there's going to be a greater connection between our self-love and how we express that love or that passion or that feeling with other beings, right? So you're going to tell us, like, some of the things that are going on around Venus at this point coming up, because I understand somewhere somebody said she went retrograde in something, maybe it was Aries, I don't want to say it wrong, so you know all of this. And then she slipped back and into another degree, or maybe it was she slipped back on the degrees that she was in order to get back to this direct. So what does that feel like for us in the body of what we're talking about?
Sure. I'm gonna get to that, but at the beginning of what you were saying, you had spoke to like Scorpio representing passion, and that's very important because that's very clear to see when we notice the things that we are not passionate about, right? What's passion is something that we may not even experience because we're so invested in not being passionate. Right. So we need to really be clear on our relationships and our situations and our businesses, right? What we're doing with each other, are we passionate about it, or we're just going through the motions? Scorpio really is that transformation into what is you're passionate about. So I wanted to really speak to that. And Venus is, freedom, and freedom in a sense of, transitioning outside of a level, like always leveling up, like never being confined to one space. Of course, freedom is growing and knowing. And as Venus was in Scorpio, transited back into Libra, and when it goes direct on the 16th, it's going to be going direct at the 25th degree. So where there was some superficial things that were going on in our relationships, whether you made the right decision or the wrong decision, let me tell you, man, this Venus retrograde has been X-ray vision to people's relationship. And it falls on the 25th degree of Libra. And 25th degree of Libra is an X-ray photograph. That's what the Savior symbol represents. And so just understanding that what looks good on the surface, don't go off of that. Whether you feeding off of something that you see on the surface, once you look to see what's deeper in that, you might not be so caught up in it. Or looking deeper into your own personal relationships, your own personal lust, where it comes to that ex-boyfriend, that ex-girlfriend, and just the little intricacies of, just the spectrum. When we look at our lives, just know that we're only looking at a very small segment of the spectrum, and understanding Venus, why she may look at the mirror, because the mirror, or Oshun, the mirror represents the refraction of light, so she can actually see many different variations of herself. I.e., like when you look in the mirror, you see another image of something that's already there. So you see something more. A mirror would allow you to see your reflection. where you might not see your reflection. You might be looking outside of yourself and might be like, oh shit, I got a booger. That's why everybody laughing at me. Or, oh, my hair is messed up. You know what I'm saying? You could adjust yourself. So you want to deal with, and not just the surface, since we dealing with X-ray, which is a real thing. Like, it's a gamma rays and X-rays. Like, some of us, have X-ray vision. Some of us have, some of us, I know this for a fact, see things in the world that other people just don't see,
Absolutely.
This is a fact, and so Venus giving us that enhanced vision. If you want to see it, see it. If you want to continue to be blind and think that everything on the surface is fine, man, it's real tough. Because if I know people who is living on the surface of their relationship were tested, tested upon tested upon tested, and now, it's going to go direct on the 16th, and you probably feel like you done made it through. But my thing is, why do you want to keep living like that? Why do you want to be
real talk, brother.
Disaster and living in, these relationships that are not transparent. There is infidelity. There is lies.
Deception. Deception. We haven't even got to the secret, right? The secrets of Scorpio and the illusions. You know what I'm saying?
That's a fact.
Yeah.
That's a fact. That's a fact. These are all words that tie into Scorpio in this reality. If you're not authentic and 100, are playing out big time. So the people that are stressed out, on Facebook, is this situation that played out on my timeline, where this whole couple got into a whole argument because they was creeping. Like, you know what I'm saying? And I ain't even talking about nothing of what they talking about, but for some reason they just, get to just expressing their whole relationship on my feed. And I'm just like, all my friends can read this, right? Like, y'all don't even care.
Y'all might have want to take that to another room, right?
Yeah, y'all can really message yourself. Y'all can really text each other, like, come on now. Like, but this is the level that people have got into by not being authentic in their relationships and having expectations and not having spiritual unions and things of that nature. But, Venus in retrograde is like, Big Mama sitting on you and just like making you just the pressure, that pressure to be authentic in your relationship, or that inner vision to be like, oh, this is the core workings of this relationship. This ain't really good. Now, seeing it and feeling it and experiencing it don't mean it's going to change. And that's what I learned about it too. People can be scared to death and still continue to do the same thing that got them in trouble. So if you're the observer of that, that's something to kind of be mindful of. Like, when you call like people your friends, like, you can clearly see the situation they're working, but you want to keep up with this illusion. So that's kind of scary too, in a sense that, that people will refuse to be authentic for the sake of, this surface. So Venus retrograde can impact you personally, or it can impact your relationships and relationships, and there's a whole gamut of, just deeper aspects of relationships where people really need to be in situations where they can really be happy, deciding not to, living with those consequences. And it's just like one of those things where you have to be very mindful or very grateful that you're in a situation where you could be authentic and you could be happy, in that space of being authentically you, because a majority of people aren't in that space, so.
Absolutely. So I'm going to go ahead and jump on the elephant in the room, okay? The elephant in the room for me, and I think it hits right into the transition you were speaking of from Scorpio into Sagittarius. And, again, we'll just put a pin in it. It took me, I'm a grandmother. It took me to the movie Frozen and what led her to that point of freezing and where we are. And your big question is, what are we freezing? And how will we thaw from it when we go into Sagittarius? And again, much of what you were just speaking to in terms of relationships, and the big one is, how are we holding that up in relationship to the self? How are we loving the self? And I say to people most of the time, you go to a whole nother level of your own authenticity when you just really, examine the lies that you continue to tell yourself. Just push the lies other people tell you to the side for a minute and have a deeper conversation with the self about what are the lies that you just continue to tell yourself, really. And is it time to give that up, And I think that for me, that's something that I have experienced when we talk about, what was the season of Scorpio like for you last year or the year before that or the year before that? For me, it always is this place, again, because those words, secrets, illusions, always veils, always comes up in this season, and it just gets down to how am I going to adjust myself or upgrade my beingness in order to deal with full disclosure, because that's what's up. This is the season for it. We're totally here, and the things that maybe we thought were really under the rug or behind over here, this is about exposure. From here till the entrance into Sagittarius, you have to consider that there's certain things that are done and on their way to dying, if you will let them die peacefully, have to come up. That's what happens. We can look at the wounds on our body. We can look at the physical of that and say, nobody moves around with a broken leg for 10 years. The parts that need to heal come up to the surface, or even just a bruise or a burn. All things as the layers of skin come up and peel back and come up. I mean, our cells are totally new every night that we sleep, and we drop some tomorrow morning. And why don't we do that with the thoughts that are outdated, with the emotions that are just played out? They've just been sitting on some kind of rewind button for eternity. And so we when people come to us, I'm sure you experience this as well as I do, tripping and falling off. And so, people like us will notice the pattern immediately and say, well, maybe you're ready to give this up. Maybe, this is the point. If it's causing you enough pain or enough disruption in your relationship, that's what is holding up in front of your face saying, hey, you want to hang on to this a little longer, or are you ready to let it go? Yeah, for sure.
For sure. That's the for sure elephant in the room, coping mechanisms. And, had a conversation earlier with a friend and just really got to the core of, why, I was acting strange, why I was acting weird. It's like, I really want to change you, and you really want to change me. And so we just cope, and we just try to act as if we can't really be in this level of conversation for real, because we really can't come to that agreement, because in reality, we can't say how we truly feel with one another. So we have to find some ways of coping with that energy. And, this new moon is trying Neptune. And so Neptune works two ways. And it works one way. And it's a spiritual quest. And some of us actually take on the spiritual quest. And some of us just escape in drugs and feelings and vibrations, music, whatever, to avoid this spiritual quest, And like I said, it come two ways, but it's really one way. And I'm choosing with my platform and my daily application is to be mindful of my spiritual quest and having these dialogues and to go back and forth. I need this, to remind myself constantly that I'm on a spiritual quest, because I've been disconnected from people and isolated from people, and all I had was weed, and just smoke weed or drink my beer and be on that quest, and to be out of that space, to be in a different type of space where it ain't about that. It's about something much more serious. And because of spirituality, because of these transformations, I'm able to be in this space, and not be in this space where I'm just my own worst enemy. And that's another elephant in the room. When you coping, you harming yourself, and you're not connecting. And that feeling that you get from those drugs, or that feeling is minuscule to the feeling of connecting, in a full spiritual way, But
absolutely,
it's all about growth and development, though, at the end of the day.
Absolutely. Well, you hit a point that I wanted to get to, because that piece stuck out for me also, a Neptune, a Lokumbi, and my mother, Orisha, that, and those depths of, there's a saying that goes with the Lokum, this is no one knows what lies at the bottom of the sea. And, I find, various pieces of that, because very early on, obviously being a Pisces, that theme of escapism, and you're avoiding the things that you should be paying attention to, and things like that, my dad is Sagittarian, really said to me, that out of all the aunties and grandmothers and elders that really, put a lot of force into my spiritual development, or other areas of my life, it was like my father really watched that part of me carefully to say, how do you walk this tightrope? How do you walk this line right here, where in the conversation we're having, you don't go in to take a swim and then just go in too deep. Or the tides of your emotion take you out deeper than you thought you could swim, or you don't have enough oxygen to come up. And so, I examine that carefully, because we find that, if we use herbal remedies, and from time to time, it's always as I guess the same way people do coffee, I'm going to have a cup of coffee to wake up. And so for many times, some type of creativity or something that I'm moving in, that I want to go deeper into those waters of Neptune, that's the direction that I can go. And yet people who have no guardrails, they go in too deep. And so then, where's that, heroin or prescription drugs or wherever, where like that buoyancy of just floating out there, just hanging, chilling. and instead of, again, the same energy we were talking about a minute ago, sexual energy or creative energy or your passions or how you're tending your fire, nobody starts a fire and walks off from it, doesn't add wood or stoke it and stuff like that unless you want the fire to go out. And so very much the same. So I wanted you to just speak to Neptune in the heavens for a minute, and how people can really embrace it, because they're, 3/4 of the planet is covered with Neptune, as far as the deep waters, and yet we are not so good in our personal mundane lives about really acknowledging when we're in over our head. And whether that's with an addiction, a drug, a relationship, money, whatever it is. And so, if there's something you could bring to us in terms of how Neptune is right now and how it's moving, who it's aspecting with, that we could take a look at that.
Sure. Neptune, I did a video today, did a new moon guided meditation which was heavily influenced with the new moon trine Neptune in Pisces. Really noticed that connection of water signs and that connection to the deeper aspects. And so for me, the symbol in the channel was Neptune being the anchor and anchoring itself down into Olokun, and understand that anchor is still connected to the body. So throughout the meditation, I was just, implying that we go deeper within our subconscious mind, and understanding that there is no limits to how deep we can go within ourselves, and understanding that Neptune being this wonderful anchor, it provides freedom and protection. Whereas imagine being the only ship that's docked into Olokun, and all the other ships are probably just docked at the bottom of the ocean, the surface level, but we're able to dock deeper by just cognizance and knowing that there's deeper levels to even the deepest deep. There is no such thing, it just gets deeper and deeper and deeper. And so that related to the sexual aspect, but then it also related to a level of freedom and a level of protection. Whereas if you were dealing with a storm or a turbulence or anything happening on the surface, whatever it may be, your relationships, habits, things of that nature, you're able to alter it and change it from your subconscious mind. It's hard to change it from the conscious mind, because that's not where the problem stems from. That's not where the problem starts. Once it gets to the conscious level of, a heroin addiction or an opiate addiction or, marijuana addiction or alcohol addiction, then you ever told, a heroin addict, you really should stop doing this heroin. It's really not a good look.
Right.
How many
right. Or an eating addiction. Or a sex addiction. It's endless.
Yeah, any addiction. A gambling addiction. You really need, you about to spend your kids' rent. You shouldn't do that. They don't get that revelation, at the conscious level. So, when it comes to addiction, when it comes to those major things that we want to change, that power, that change, that magic, for me, it was, a particular lack of love in my life that I wanted to experience in a lifetime. And from that projection, I manifested a wife, and a family. That was something that I did not have, that I wanted, and not like I wanted it. It was a spiritual requirement, or anything that I wanted to go further.
That
in
anchor
my
you were talking about. That anchor.
Yeah.
That's what it. That's why it was a spiritual requirement.
Cancer, Neptune and Pisces, and this full moon in Scorpio and that water sign. All of your emotions being in full alignment, and that pesky little sneaky little sexual emotions that you haven't really authenticated with your partner or with yourself, and you kind of keep that in that shadow zone,
right?
That's the block right now, today, this evening.
Yeah. It's interesting. Two things came up for me as you were speaking. One was the movie Abyss. Did you see that?
No, I did not.
Oh, check it out, The Abyss.
Watch it, for sure.
Yeah, because what's a powerful movie? No, I'm not going to do any spoiler alerts here, but what caught me was really they were like heaven and earth, but they were underwater. So on the top of the water, there was a major storm going on, as you just said, that they couldn't go up. And to go down took them like into the core of the earth down. Like many, that's why it's called The Abyss, many feet down. And so, again, I think about the many folks, battling depression, and how depression can really represent that Neptunian energy where, it'll get a hold to some people and they can't get out of bed. I mean, they're deep in it. And again, we wonder, as their caretakers or their loved ones around them, and we see them battling the depression, we don't want them to get addicted to opioids. And you say, well, now how can I, not anchor them, but also shoot them a life raft where they can just come back up from the depths of, sometimes the grief does that when we lose a particular loved one, or certainly the shocks of various levels of trauma that we're going through as a world and as a country at this particular time, where, we'll get plunged into the depths of our emotions so quickly without any notification that, again, we don't, I don't think we have mastery of the tools of how to keep ourselves afloat. And if you do have to do some deep dives into your emotional body, how to do that safely and with guardrails. I mean, for me, that's something that all this political wahala that just went by, was, again, Trump has brought a lot of things right before our eyes, and one of them is the ability to watch a person in that position just completely at the guard. You know what I mean? Like to take a detour or a different turn or cross your tracks is one thing. But when your train has left the guardrail completely, and I think it was the week that the pipe bombs happened and the massacre up there in the synagogue and stuff like that, and he was just really on to whatever was his next pep rally or whatever. And and you go, wow, that is a human being that who has no guardrails. You don't even see himself crossing over. And this is why I say to people all the time, the one who angers you the most is your greatest teacher, because in each and every moment in our relationships or our reflections of ourselves to the other, and then also the ability to see ourselves in the reflection of others, should basically give us, some kind of substance to hold on to as to where are the safe boundaries, where are the guardrails, as you were speaking to a minute ago, where we do have the ability to keep ourselves very focused on what is the spiritual mission here, where am I set out to go next? You know what I mean? Just to take that thought that keeps pulling us forward, Right. So, is there anything to balance out? Because I think the Neptune and Pisces thing is also going to go out with us for a couple of years. So I haven't heard a lot yet about Ogun or Shango, Uranus, or Mars, but you might want to chime them in terms of, where are those sudden eruptive energies, and where is our that masculinity of Mars, that energy that pushes us forward? Where is that?
Sure. And so Ogun is in the space where it's trying to it's not transform, it's transmute, or even where it's in the realm of technology, the realm of like thinking and advancing the way that we're able to communicate, and like really trying to do a lot all at once, being in Aquarius. And it's trying to prepare us very quickly as it is flying through Aquarius. Like in the 16th when the 16th when Venus goes to breaks, that same day Mars goes into Pisces, right?
I didn't know. That's why I asked. Wow.
Yeah, for sure. And it's going to actually be trine Venus, so it creates a level of inherent knowing of what we've actually been building upon. Really, like, we've been building a lot of information and talking about a lot of different things. Sometimes people are familiar with these energy or familiar with certain things I say. What I'm trying to do is bring it all together in a short amount of time, because as Mars goes into Pisces, it's going to be, the lead character in the abyss, whether it's Ed Harris or whatever the case may be, is going to be in that space. And it's another movie like this. It's not a good movie, but it's like speaks to this. It's called The Meg. It just came out this year.
Yeah.
Most people wouldn't see it. It's like a kind of cheesy movie, but it's like below the surface of the waters is another level, and this is where we're trying to speak to and get people to, because when shit hits the fan, and it can be in a multitude of different areas and different realms of life, but the way of life, or the way that we think in, we're going through a major shift. And a lot of this energy is to prepare us spiritually. Whatever we go through, whatever we experience, we have to begin to experience on a spiritual level. I like to talk about this a lot on my channel, the idea of two worlds. The fact that me and you could be developing spirituality and having all the realizations in the world, and that person be in the next room playing video games all day,
Right.
having a completely different experience. And so the masculine energy on the earth is very much fragmented and spread out into an electromagnetic sphere, where it's actually in the voice. Uranus on the cusp of Aries and Taurus. Uranus and Taurus is using your voice as power, using your voice to awaken people. We have to begin to explain it and speak it to a way that it makes sense. So that's always my goal when I'm having these conversations. Like, I can speak hood, ebonics, or whatever, like just hood talk all day, but I try to do a little bit of both, just because I want to be clear with certain people, and who I'm actually talking to, who I'm actually speaking to, I'm affecting them, and for a lot of people, it's like, they like, well, I don't understand what you're saying, or how you really, well, I'm really not talking to you. I try a little bit, you know what I'm saying, sometimes, but it's people who don't know nothing about an Oshun or an astrology or nothing. They just got finished selling some drugs. You know what I'm saying? And
I get it.
They might stumble upon my page, and now I got to kind of ease them into this a little bit, so whether it's the music, the graphics, or whatever the case may be, it's a specific point of the population that nobody is talking to, that I'm specifically talking to. It's a lot of
This
residuals.
is correct. This is what I said to my priest friend, the Yamacha priest, earlier, and that's what I wanted to say at the top of the hour. So it brings me just to give you, out of my heart, the appreciation for, number one, your ministry, your calling, what your ancestors, the agreements were for you to do that, because I hit that place you're talking about, every time that I really want to propel you through the entire of my tribes and social media, and I know that not enough of them even know the people you're talking to, let alone have a reality for the hood where I can absorb everything, just as if we were in this conversation now, out of your daily energy things. But most of the people, and I say that very lightly, but most circles that I run in would just get so caught in the slang and the profanity that actually deals in the hood, when in fact that is a connector. It is a main connector to an entire level of our population that no one is talking to. Not the preachers, not the psychiatrists, like you said.
No,
They just coming or going between drug deals. You know what I'm saying? That ain't even a crew. And so if you're trying to like just reach out and say, hey, I'm here for you, and I do speak your language, but I want to drop something on you right here. And that's what you bring every morning, and I'm just so proud of you for that, for real, for really, you know, being that voice that, because no one is talking to that the hood group, you know, at all. Yeah.
And then a lot of it comes from a space of that, you know, people want particular support to continue their ministry, but a lot of people aren't even conditioned or in a position to support you or even understand that concept. So that would be a detractor, because, you know, you're not going to make a lot of money talking to people like that, because they ain't going to give you nothing. So part of it is like, I take care of myself. Like, in general, like, I accept donations, whatever the case may be, but at the end of the day, whether my kids eat or, you know, the rent is paid is not predicated on my ministry. My ministry is something out of love and, you know, something that I really want to do and really speak to people, you know what I'm saying? And I'm just appreciative of the space and time of utilizing 24 hours, not wasting my time, really utilizing my time to be able to be, like, multi-dimensional. But, you know, it's very much of using your voice to awaken people. And I'm just one of many, you know. We all can begin to use this Uranus energy, awaken our voices, and really speak things into existence with this new moon in Scorpio, really utilizing the power and majesty of it and speak these things into existence, realizing our voice has power, realizing that the things that we see and the things that we know, we are not tripping, like we are not seeing things. The reality is that our physical eyes are just 0.0335% of the whole entire visual spectrum. So we owe it to ourselves to expand our vision, to expand our ways of life, and really keep pushing forward. No matter where you're at, no matter what situation you are in, we are all in a prime position to level up spiritually, because it's so much growth available.
Right. And so it occurs to me, just as you said that, like, to, you know, as we're winding down, to bring 2 points just out of where we were before I go over here to Pluto, is that Uranus, and you know, many times whether you say Uranus or you say Shango, you do say the Great Awakener. And if you know, people go above that, we'll just think, you know, if you're in a deep sleep and boom, boom, thunder hits the sky, you are awakened. And so this is the energy that we are speaking of when there's like major boom booms in your life, sudden eruptive energy like thunder that came out of nowhere. And to even perceive Mars going into Pisces, I mean, I'm sure it's been there before, but, you know, thank you for bringing that forefront to the consciousness, because being a Pisces myself, you know what I mean, and having that Neptune piece that we were just talking about, like, okay, so you're going to be swimming from the deep, but you got to come up to the surface for these other people in the community that you serve, and then you go back down into the deep. And so to have that, you know, because when we speak about Mars or Ogun, you know, some of the things, you know, I just call upon my tours, giving tours in Oyotunji, and we get to the Ogun shrine, and I try to give the negative and the positive of the Orishas, just so that, again, like in your realm, people, I'm talking to people that don't know, they're just taking a tour around all the temples, and I say, you know, in the negative, it can look like guns and wars and fights and arguments, but in the positive, if you even begin to consider the work of a blacksmith who taps that iron all friggin' day, you are talking about like major consistency, major endurance, like, and so to just put that in the pocket of Mars in Pisces and say, wow, this is some strong energy that's going to hold this spiritual ride or this spiritual adventure that you know, Pisces is moving into at this time. So yeah, as I asked you that question, I was thinking to myself what I remembered, not like the last time I looked at all that configuration of those planets in particular, Shango and Mars was in like this major dance with Pluto, with Oya. So that's, one planet that we haven't really covered yet other than Saturn, which we're getting into, I'm sure, in Sagittarius as we get into the winter solstice. But what's Pluto, the transformer herself? Where's she at? What's she bringing?
Well, she's bringing, the actual transformation on a physical level, where you may look at the world and say, like you said earlier, there are negative and positive sides. And to create new vibrations, there has to be a level of destruction,
Right.
And that level of destruction is not ideal. But where we've discussed Pluto and we've built on Pluto in many different other ways, and because we've discussed Scorpio ad nauseum, but the ruling planet of Scorpio is actually Pluto.
I was going to say that is Pluto. Yeah.
For sure. And Pluto being in Capricorn actually is there to give us that physical symbol of transformation and change, and where we're able to have these conversations. Pluto in Capricorn is the actual space for us to have these conversations. If we were to, rewind back to 2007, where Pluto entered into Capricorn, you think about the internet, YouTube and things of that nature. Yeah, there was some information and things of that nature, but it really exploded technologically with the use of Ethernet wires and fiber optics and things of that nature. Allowed us to hold more space of information. So instead of a 10-minute Bobby Hemmett video, you was getting a 5-hour Bobby Hemmett video, and the whole likes of things of nature, where people like me, I was just able to sit and just soak up information. And this was Pluto and Capricorn. Now we are 19 degrees into this space of holding spiritual conversations, allowing for spiritual transformation to be, a normal conversation between two friends. That the amount of information that we've touched on in this hour and a half, if a person was taking notes, and you can download and then listen to this again. All of
absolutely, I was just thinking it.
Yeah, it's amazing. But just imagine us having this conversation in a space outside of Pluto and Capricorn. Maybe we just have the conversation,
Capricorn is the saving grace. This is the thing why we, at the top of the hour as we close, I'm going to do the commercial on the season of the Raven and where we're going to go in teachings this winter on a weekly basis. But, just to know that, of course, my earthly mother in heaven now was a Capricorn. So you could imagine the Capricorn mother over a Pisces dreamer daughter. And so, what you're saying is that, we have the body of that sign of Capricorn, really practical, how shit hits the ground. Here's how you do it. And that's,
here's how you do it.
We're having, as we have the dialogue and we talk these things through, and we do need each other. I'm so, just really elated to have a conversation with you. It's not often that I get to with a deep astrologer for 2 hours, and this is part of it. Is that those listening, I want to give a shout out to Mr. Brucifer over there in Tennessee, who is a Scorpio that's listening, and to just acknowledge that has been going on for a while. And if you'd speak to that, I can't even remember when Pluto moved into this real thing with Scorpio. I mean, not Scorpio, Capricorn, and we got a ways to go. I want to say, it's like my mom wants to say 2024, but is that right?
Yeah, you're right.
They're going to stay in that?
I think it was 2011. I said 2007 at the beginning, but if I remember correctly, 2011 to about 2024.
That's what I'm thinking.
So we're in this space for a while, and such amazing transformations from now until then. Like, I could not imagine being in this space in 2011. Like, forget about it. Like, there's no way that I could imagine myself being in this space at 2011. And it's just me personally, you know. I was knee deep in the hood lifestyle, the hood mentality. Of course, I was conscious in a sense, but to be at this space in this time, spirit is real, and, you know, Capricorn and really ascension is real. And so I would encourage us all to focus on our ascension, focus on our growth, focus on our development, you know, because it's available to us with much ease and much grace. We just have to begin to walk, you know, up that mountain, you know. We all can do it. It's figuratively.
So here we are, Game of Thrones, winter is coming. and, you know, we saved the best for last. On that note, what a great, you know, transition here into Saturn, because sure enough, I think I looked it up here, the full moon, and so we're, you know, this is where we do our 360 as we go through the last 30 minutes of the show, right on Thanksgiving. There you have it. Because the next program of Sister Queens, The Resurrection, comes on Thursday the 22nd, and that is a full moon in Gemini. And I was just about to say that a minute ago when you were appreciating us having the conversation, you know, with Pluto and Capricorn. I was like, I'm really glad it's not in Gemini, man, because, you know, that twin action, that schizophrenic thing, like, sometimes just really drives me out. So
it's overbearing. It's too much.
It's too much.
It's a lot. It's a lot.
Yeah, and you wouldn't think a Pisces with two fish swimming in different directions would have such a tough time with it. And you know, I have good Gemini friends, but I have to be aware. I have to be aware which twin I'm shooting with or present with at any given moment.
We talked about boundaries earlier, didn't we?
Well, we did, but we knew we were coming to Saturn, which of course tells us about boundaries, limitations, and restrictions. Yes, when the taskmaster comes in, he'll bring it real in case we didn't get it.
That's so true.
You know.
May I give y'all a little treat?
Sir. Hello there, Baba.
Okay.
Give us a treat.
Hey, peace. Islam Hood Mystic. What's happening? How are you?
What's good, brother?
I just want to give y'all a few signs, because what I did was I decided to chart the show. And then I'm going to give y'all some information and see what y'all say about the show. So I charted the show today at 9 o'clock. I charted it as a female, and I charted it in Augusta, Georgia, which is close to Sangoma. So you got Sun Scorpio, Moon Scorpio, Mercury Sagittarius, Venus is in Libra. You got Mars Aquarius, Jupiter Scorpio, Saturn is Capricorn, Uranus Aries, Neptune Pisces. Pluto is in Capricorn. You got Lilith is in Aquarius, and your ascending node is in Cancer, and so your ascendant is Cancer. You got your second and third house look like Leo, okay? Your fourth house Virgo, fifth house Libra. Your sixth house Sagittarius, seventh Capricorn, eighth Aquarius, ninth Aquarius. Your midheaven is Pisces. You know, your 11th is Aries, and then your 12th is Gemini. So that's the chart for today. You know, when we look at, you know, right now what y'all kicking in type of communication y'all got, because Mercury is communication, right? So you got some Sagittarius stuff from Scorpio to Sagittarius. You know what I mean, like that. So that's very interesting. You know, and then one of your dominant planets is.
And so, Hood, and then when you were an Aquarian, right?
I'm a Virgo, Libra rising, and I got a Cancer moon.
Okay. And Baba's in Aries. I'm a Pisces sun, Virgo moon, and Cancer rising. Because I was just like really hearing that chart.
What degree of Pisces are you? What degree of Pisces are you? Do you know?
No, I'm not good, but I'll look it up while we chat.
For sure.
Because
like, are you the beginning of Pisces, end of Pisces, middle?
Oh,
when is your
February
birthday?
26th. Yeah, I'm February 26th. I'm sort of, not on the cusp, but kind of in the beginning. And let me say on that point that I am acutely aware and have been for all of my life how different I am than March Pisces people. That's a fact.
Yeah,
hands down. Every single, and I have about 15 Pisces friends, and all of them are March Pisces. I'm the only, in that group, I'm the only February Pisces, and there, I just have to say from the seat I'm in, there's a complete, not difference, but kind of like in the Mayan tones. There's just a different frequency for the February, particularly the end, of February, right there, compared to those that are in the beginning of March. So, wow. Should I be worried? Let me just pause.
No, I was just saying because we are like diametrically opposed from each other. Because I'm a first deacon Virgo, you being a first deacon Pisces. I was just making sure because that's our alignment, that's our connection as well. By kind of being that opposite opposite space of earth and water, and creating something. It's so beautiful when you hold spaces and you hold it down from a whole nother level. And we got Brother L like holding that fire down for us.
Exactly.
We just need that air to come through. And just hold down these four poles. Yeah. For sure, it is magnificent. Magnificent.
Right, we got Shango Wumi here. She's holding down that Leo vibe for us. Definitely. And there's a few things we want to do, gentlemen, in the last 20 minutes, just to kind of bring it all the way full 360 from the hood. Want to just again kind of maybe put in our vision that we've co-created here together in terms of, when we jump back on the 22nd of this month in the fullness of the Gemini moon. What kind of things, because I'm really asking for myself for sure, what kind of things should we hold present and true, I'm kind of saying again, in order to steer ourselves, to have a good anchor, and to ground ourselves, moving from a new moon in Scorpio into the sun in Sagittarius, and then a full moon in Gemini. Is that too complicated, Hood? I don't think so, because I know you can handle it.
No, it's because what's happening is such a beautiful placement that, we all want the world to see, we all want to be able to experience, because it's really igniting a grand trine that involves healing, that involves spiritual quest, that involves communication. Generally, when you deal with the Gemini, you know their problems more than they know their problems. You see their problems, and they want to sit and talk to you about how that ain't their problem. But you like, well, I see blood on your shirt, like you're stabbed. Like, I'm stabbed. This is just catch up. Like, okay, all right, and it's like, real. We just have to be more aware and cognizant of our communication. And Gemini is an energy that I think we all kind of share, and we can always somewhat project on a Gemini because they were our worst enemies, and we can kind of just like be in a space where, well, I ain't got it as bad as them type of deal, which is unhealthy. I think that we all have a particular level of clarity that we need to communicate, and the sun in Sagittarius conjunct Jupiter represents a new experience on the planet. Okay, a new experience on the planet, and it involves a level of healing, and it involves a level of conquest that is deeply connected to the magic that you are utilizing today. And you know, I wouldn't expect anything to happen out of nothing. I would expect that your intention that you set from unifying your masculine and feminine energy today, utilizing a star of purpose that is one of the moon days in the Vedic astrology, like during so if today is what's that, Wednesday, and because the sun say it's Wednesday, well, the moon say it's Vishaka, but it's Vishaka, the next chakra. That's just the other side. Like the night would be called Vishaka, and the day would be like Wednesday. So the night, the lunar mansion, the star of purpose is the Vishaka, and to work with this energy is utilizing your achieve many goals, to have a deep ambition, to ultimately achieve ultimate victory. Now, that don't mean that everybody gonna work with it. To ignore it is going to be a level of just hoping that things just work out. I just hope that everything work out favorable, and I ain't put no effort into it. Now, we've spoke to so much of how we can utilize this energy in different ways by drinking water, utilizing the power of sexual energy, orgasm, reading, things of that nature, really expanding your mind, touching into your power, touching into your, magic, and then using that from the Sagittarian aspect opposed to communicative cusp Taurus, Gemini moon, full moon on top of a grand trine. And when you have a grand trine with the opposition, that creates a kite. And a kite is, in astrology, when you have a grand trine, which a grand trine is like this magical ability, but a kite is the actual catalyst to that magical ability. Like they say, like life ain't a movie, but just imagine a movie. Well, there's always an antagonist that's going to pressure you to bring you out of, get you to Bruce Leroy mode where you glowing and you about to kick show enough's ass. That would make the movie good. You know what I'm saying? So
one of those astrologers spoke to that today, exactly. Not to cut you off, but one of those astrologers spoke to that today exactly. They put it on the level of a movie and said, right where we are and where we're going to, part of the movie where the protagonist is like, tried and it's pushing through, and then they just get to a point where they're about to give up. And something else comes in, another ingredient or another piece shows up, which is what you were speaking about, that new beginning happening. And it's almost like that wind under the wings of the protagonist. They were like, I can do it. Oh, I can take this route. Suddenly a way forward that was in the shadow a minute ago. Is now available to us as a choice. And I was going to question as you were speaking, and I get about 5 at least every time you speak, was so if it were going toward Libra, my keyword would be balance. But it's going toward Gemini. So do you have a word like balance that speaks to that, Gemini? Because I see it as, our light or our shadow. And if I were going to speak to it, I would say, okay, I'm aware of that. Just like when it is, if a moon was going toward Libra being full, then that's my question for myself. Everything I do, okay, are you in balance or are you out of balance? Okay, is this going to put more balance or less balance? And so I really have that key word. And I think I need, maybe in the listeners as well, would appreciate a word, if you have it, for Gemini that's kind of like balance to Libra. Do you have one?
Right. I view it as duality, responsibility. You know, duality, responsibility. Everything that you say matters. You know, the way that, like, it really does matter. If you know a Gemini, I know Geminis on an intimate level. They tend to say more than what they're actually going to do, right? And that's a level of duality and creating that expectation. You know, I didn't never even say that I even wanted it, but you saying what you're going to do about it and all the stuff that you're going to do, and now you created this space and this energy. So, you know, always in the form of knowing exactly what you can do and only speak to that. Like, I tend to like to schedule things because that way I can speak from that space. If it's just like, oh, whatever, then it get kind of crazy, you know. So.
Yeah, it gets a little ambiguous, you know. But that's nice because I teach the resolution of duality and how we harness the ability to come to the middle, to come to the common ground, whether that's inside of ourselves personally or it's in another dynamic with another human being. And then the other word that comes right behind it is polarity, which we tend to see more present with Cancer types in those mood swings where, whoosh, their pendulum is swinging from over here, you know, happy to sad or back and forth. But in the Gemini aspect, to just really consider it as we go forward towards this full moon, where we meet ourselves in the middle, where do we lie between how our pendulum is swinging. Wow, we could go another hour, right? I'm looking at the time and I'm like, wow.
And
so I got a question.
What's going to happen with this full moon is going to be a level of responsibility. That's going to be so whatever you intend, expect that responsibility that comes along with it. So if you imagine Gemini to be like, you know, I like that girl, I want to marry that girl, and then from there you go into Cancer, into that family, or whatever the case may be, you know. So this is just the beginning points, you know. This is the beginning. This is one of the things that I stressed this morning, that this whole process is the beginning process. And if we could all collectively understand that, you know, the transformative power of us understanding that, you know, this platform, what we're doing, you know, is just the beginning. You know, how amazing is that? You know, how powerful is that?
Right. But we got some good stuff, you know. I'm very thankful for what we've covered this evening.
Man, the content for anybody that's just listening, like, I tend to listen to myself, you know, and I'm just like, I want to listen to everything that we talked about because I don't even remember, you know, a lot of it was just spiritual channeling, and your questions and just this whole dialogue was just phenomenal. So I just can't wait to share this on my platform to listeners and, you know, listen to it again with my wife. And, you know, this is just phenomenal, like amazing.
Absolutely.
Just my personal experience.
And I share it, brother. The Virgo moon over here said, you know, that's the way I get it. Like, I'm fully present here, and unlike I didn't want to bring, you know, prepared questions because I don't know where we're going, what's going to build, what the weaving is, you know what I'm saying? And so, again, we both got way up there, and that ability, I'm so thankful to you when you posted on your channel, because that ability to just go back, or whether people choose to go back into Ringing Stone and listen again, like, you're going to get so much. We're all going to get so much. Just really being able to hear it and not only hear it, but apply it. So
apply it and take our notes.
Absolutely. Indeed. There was a question. Baba had a question, and I want him to get into it. And I just want to say to y'all, we have a special gift to close the show because Shango Wumi has written. She's a songwriter and a spoken word artist, and so she's written this beautiful Scorpion Moon piece that I definitely wanted to do before we close out. But Baba, what was your question?
Yeah, I just want to let the people know next Wednesday we have Lester Lovins, and we're going to look at the science and metaphysics. And possibly Brother Hawkins is going to be there. I haven't 100% concerned with him, but I know me and Lester Lovins is going to look at the science and metaphysics. So we're starting to get or to understand that you can't separate them. You know, if there's science and there's metaphysics, and we brought all of that to the world at some point, or there was some being that gave us that because we were here on the planet. And that's about it. Oh, another question, I guess. So why did I have to have two Geminis on the same day? You know what I mean? That's crazy. But y'all was talking about it, but maybe we'll talk about that next month, you know, like that.
For sure. Gemini, we could have a whole podcast just on
what? A lot of people in the room, boo.
Let me clarify that then. I've been married twice, and both of my wives were born on the same day. Not the same year, but the same day. And it's really weird. I didn't even put, you know. It's like, you can't get enough.
Like that whole time, you'd have got put up on some game. But fire sign, man, it's one of those things where you got to really be so patient and so understanding that, you know, astrology is definitely needed with Gemini energy. Like, you know, being, you know, deeply involved with a Gemini is what got me into astrology. You know, because it's just one
Try
of those
to make
things.
some sense of it. Yeah.
Make some sense of it all, you know. And it's just like, it's a deep love there. I think that's the core of it all. So, you know, that love. I'm not being demeaning or rude or speaking anything negative to Gemini. I'm saying I'm trying to figure this shit out. You know, like I'm really trying to figure it out. That's why, you know, I would study and try to understand it, because that love is so real. But then it's that challenge, duality.
Of the duality,
so,
right. Yeah.
To get to that point is a level of honesty beyond humanity. And this is the lesson that Gemini is trying to teach us spiritual folk. You know, we can't be them as our greatest teachers, those Geminis, you know. Those are our greatest
big-hearted
lovers.
People.
Oh my God.
Yeah, they're big-hearted people. I think that's, you know, what we love. Is
yeah, for sure. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and they teach. They're natural teachers, and they givers, you know, so.
Yeah,
but
absolutely.
The duality of the reflection of you with them is sometimes too real to really digest. So the more work that we can do on ourselves, the more developing, the more peace that we can come to that relationship, whether it was a past relationship. If you could find peace and understanding in the relationship with your wives, you are creating peace on the planet. Because these are scientific, you know, cosmological questions in relations to cosmology that I just want to say this one thing, because I didn't get to talk to it and I really wanted to, where we were talking about how we could connect to people with all this water sign energy. The listeners on this live, we are changing the world when we deal with our subconscious energy. We are changing the planet when we heal our relationships. You know, it's not just a simple you thing. And the deeper that we can go into this energy, the more anchored we could become into this energy, the more adjustments not only are we going to make in our personal lives, but the world you see around you is going to change.
Absolutely.
And this is our responsibility as spiritual attainers. Just wanted to say that.
Well, I'm so glad you did. That's like another whole show for real, because, you know, it's just true. For 1,000 reasons we get going. But I'm going to turn the mic over to my engineer here and hear this beautiful piece that she that came from her soul for us. Shango Wumi Ola Bintan. Bless us. Scorpion moon is the boo. Imaja, I bow down gracefully. I glide with you as the waters reside inside my... Commence to view myself anew as I wait for motherhood patiently. Swimming towards greatness, pushing past hate and fakeness to the giver of life within, I will remain true. Mermaiding with you. Amidst your lunar phases, Scorpion stings quite amazing, and that's why I'm amazing too. Mama Watson, your children here are being slaughtered, however the light in us is shining through. We are giving forgiveness, community, hope, mostly love, in order to break through.
asking mercy from you, my Scorpion moon. My Scorpion moon, to the tune of secrecy, I hear your melody. Temptations, having patience, and questioning people's sincerity. Gotta stay grounded for when the storms hit, the inner eye is lit. Ooh, I think I found it. I'm in the eye of it. Waving my whip now, too. I follow the sound to inner clarity, my personal guru. No longer will I sink and drown. This universe can be spellbound with the steam imitating society. Cast away and get earthbound to get in tune with Scorpion's moon so we all can turn this thing around and burst like butterflies from a cocoon, grooving while singing praises to you, a Scorpion moon. By Shangawumi Oladinka.
Yes, righteous. Oh, another reason to listen to it over again, even though she sent me a copy of my email. It's been for real. It's been rich. Hood. You know, the more I share with you, the more I look forward to the next time I will share with you. So a great appreciation and gratitude for all that you've given to us this evening. And we'll try and get the commercials in this last few minutes to say that the Tuesday following Thanksgiving, well, first of all, Sister Queen's The Resurrection, the full moon celebration on the 22nd. And if you're not too full and ate too much food that day, maybe you'll join us at 9 o'clock on Thursday evening, November 22nd, for the next edition of The Resurrection. We're going to talk a little bit about that. What are we resurrecting, and how we take that resurrection and put the seeds that we want to, put underground into the winter so that they can just really begin to germinate us toward that spring equinox. So great show. I'm very much looking forward to it. We've got something special planned because we didn't want to interrupt other people's holidays. So it's totally on the creative muse to bring that forward. At the end of the year, the last 3 years, we've done a teaching series called Season of the Raven. And this year, we're really proud to be bringing that through the Ringing Stone Network on the final 6 Tuesdays of 2018, beginning November 27th. And each week we'll gather here in Ringing Stone Network, and there are a number of things that, if you watch social media, you'll see it go by as we open registration for it. And we almost don't even know how to bring it all the way down to a close. We opened so many doors, and, from my heart to all of the listeners, we thank you for tuning in this evening, and we'll be holding you on the altar, of our heart all the way as we step into the portal and the gateway of 1111. Look for the teachings. We have the Classroom Collective that's in social media on Facebook, where some great teachings will be going by on what is that vibration, what is the mastery that this year of 2018 brought to us, what opportunities are here as it closes out and we move to this next vibration, that 3-year that comes up in 2019. So we hope that you will join us again. For those of you that don't know and just caught the tidbits or even listen to it again and like, what? Do check in with Hood Mystic, because he is available to pin it down to you personally, to your birth chart, to where the planets were when you were born. What does your map say? Where are you supposed to be turning and going straight right here through these very, very twisty times? That's what Ringing Stone is about. It's really about whether we're bringing you science or metaphysics or sacred activism or strategy. It's just from our heart, really trying to put some tools out here so that we have some better navigation through this season and through this winter. So till next time, love, love, love. Remember, love pushes back the darkness. And everyone see you in the dream time is what I'm going to say. May we all connect up again in other dimensions. Peace.
Peace.